Hello and welcome to Stereotypical, the podcast about music and the people that make it. My name is Liam McGrath. I am, as always, joined by Mr. Jack O'Neill. How you feeling today, bro?
I'm alright. I'm a bit amazed that you just did that like one try.
Oh, what? Because
first
it normally
try,
takes a couple. Yeah. I feel like you're in a better mood than you were last time. You seem chipper today. I'm excited.
Yeah, I feel alright. I feel pretty normal.
I'm excited.
I think it's just when we come in, like we just get straight to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like work.
Right. Yeah. Whereas today we chatted for a bit before.
We went for a little walk to the shop, didn't we?
Yeah.
But
true.
like when I work with like people that I already know, I think it's mad because like outside of work we're completely different. Yeah, bar cream soda.
Yeah. Outside of work, you're completely different.
No, but it's like if I see that same person, then yeah, it's different vibes, innit?
How do you think that relates to us?
Because like we just chat shit outside of this, and then like when we know we're gonna talk
Chat shit on this.
but when we know we're gonna talk about something,
Well,
it's like I'm in work
in
mode.
podcast mode.
Yeah.
You had said much like last week.
Mode.
Much like last week, you had suggested that you had a topic that you wanted to discuss for this episode.
Feel like I'm gonna put out an assumption already, like a whatever.
Preconceived notion.
Yes,
Right.
I'm gonna get fucking roasted. I
Okay.
could just feel it coming already.
Okay.
But we're gonna talk about albums,
Yeah.
just general LPs,
LPs, the long player.
bodies of work, right? And it came up when we was mid spoons. We was talking, and it's like what is the need for albums, or furthermore, is there a need for albums?
Yeah, well, because I sort of bought into the idea a little bit that like the album was dying,
Right.
because I think it's a thing that's perpetuated quite a lot.
I think we'd have to fucking have a timeline of like albums and like what they mean for people and like the artist.
Well, but here's the thing though, I don't know how much it's actually changed. I think it's a myth.
What albums are a myth? Or the
The
timelines have changed?
Albums don't exist. No, the idea that what it means to people to put an album out has changed.
Right.
I don't think it's necessarily changed that much as to what it used to mean.
I'm just trying to think of like being in the mindset of someone that's like, right, we're going to make an album. Like, I feel like that's something people might say rather than just, we're going to write some music and then we'll put together an album.
Yeah, but I suppose like if you're in the industry, if let's say you're a signed artist,
You sign album deals, don't you? That's the thing.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like you go into it with the idea of, okay, this is going to be for the next album. It's going to be for the debut album. You know what I mean? And you can tell yourself as much as you want that, we're just going to write stuff and see what we get. But it's going to all get put on an album, most likely.
Well, yeah, because it's just a norm, innit? Like, the wheel has been a turning.
Yes.
For a long time.
Many a decade.
And it's just, that's the way the cookie crumbles, innit? You make an album, you put it out, you go on tour.
Yeah.
Wham, bam, thank you, man. You're left in the negative. No money. No money, no fans, stressed and depressed.
Yeah.
But at least you've got an album.
Yeah.
But like nowadays, the albums seem to be more as I'm getting it out there so people know what they're coming on tour for.
Well, this is what I was going to say, because I think maybe the function of the album in that regard has changed a little bit, because the album isn't so much a money-making tool as it used to be. If we're just talking like cold, hard music
Cash.
biz, you know what I mean?
All right.
Obviously, there's artistic reasons for making an album. But these days, because most of your dollar comes from the tour, it's less the tour to promote the album and more the album to promote the tour. Or at least that's what we're told. I don't know. Maybe I'd have to mull over that.
Because I agree with what you're saying, that's what we're told, but that's all you kind of hear, innit? You don't see any different points of views, or you don't hear anyone saying anything different.
Well, I guess if you boiling it down to like facts, you will make more money from the tour than the album.
Yeah.
So you could say that the tour, the album is to promote the tour. But also I think if you just went on tour, people would probably still come.
With no album.
Like say you're a big artist, right? You know, a Taylor Swift or whatever. If you announce a tour and you're not dropping any new music, you're just doing a tour.
Right.
People will still come.
Although, when we was literally like 20 minutes ago, you was like, "Oh, the 1975 has just announced the tour again,"
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, what's the fucking point?" Do you know what I mean?
Well, but I bet you people still fucking go.
They will go, but
This is what I'm saying.
you got to think of like who's going. Like, is it just the fan base? Do you think it's people who missed out on previous dates? Like, what from your perspective? Like, I know in the past when you've played live,
Yeah.
you want to be playing in front of more people who are new
Yeah.
to get them in, rather than just playing to the same people. Do you think that applies to like big artists like you're saying? Because if they're all doing the same tour, like I think it's different if you do like Coldplay's world tour. It's like they're going country to country for like 3 years.
Yeah.
But if you're the 1975 and you're just on what was it, North America and Europe tour,
Yeah.
and they've announced they're carrying on the Europe tour, like what's the benefits apart from just getting the money in? You know what I mean? Like what?
I think it is that, you know, there's more incentive to be on the road now. So like you've done the tour, and you know, okay, people will come and see us again. Maybe we'll play some they're playing slightly different cities that they played last time. So maybe different people will come. Maybe people who couldn't come the first time. Maybe the hardcore fans will come again. Like I'm going again probably.
Yeah, I'm just trying to weigh up like what people would want out. Like if you're a musician and like a creative person, like for me, listening to the 1975 for one day live, unreal day. But if they're doing the same set continuously for like months and years, like what are they getting? Like what I think they prefer making music rather than touring.
Yeah, definitely. But also you have to play the game.
But that's what I mean. That's why I don't understand like just re-announcing the same tour. Like that's not the game, is it? If you've done
and also that is the game, because it's like you're having to tour to make the money, but also like
if someone sat in the back with like a counter going, "Oh fuck, we've not hit the goal yet." Lads,
I don't suppose it'll be the exact same tour, you know, because like we said in the last conversation that we had, or in fact no, two episodes ago when we were talking about going to see them live. And you were like, "Oh, they didn't do that thing where they played the whole new album and then the new stuff." It's like, yeah, but that's because that's what the tour was. But if, like you're saying, you're doing the same thing every show,
yeah,
you can't really get away with that. It's not fulfilling to you, but also
they've set a mold there, right? The same way we've just said albums are to promote live tours to get the money in.
Yeah.
If I know that everywhere else, this is what we were just saying about doing the first album as well. Like, don't get me wrong, first album's decent, right? It's not my favourite, probably not my top 3, but I know that Stans like it, don't they? If I went to go and watch 1975 at a paid gig and they just played the first album, I'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, but they're doing that for the fans. I feel like people who are properly
Anyway,
into
we're hyper-focusing too much on that specific thing.
But what I was going to say is that, like, there's also the aspect of if you do something on tour that's meant to be
it stays on tour,
meant to be an occasion,
right?
Meant to be like because their show, as a good example, and I'm sure the same is similar with maybe like Taylor Swift's like Eras thing that she's doing, is like very much it's a show, you know, like
it is a show.
It's almost like
100%.
there's things in the show, there's surprises in the show, there's cool twists, there's theatre involved, right? And the problem with that is when you go to the theatre, you can't film anything. So you go to the theatre, you watch the thing, and then no one else is going to know what the thing is until they've watched it.
Yeah,
Whereas at a gig, shit leaks. So like when the 75 first started that at the very best tour,
right,
all the stuff about like the eating the raw meat and all these like gags in the show became memes on the internet. So then it's like you can't just do the same thing over and over again, because then it is just like.
But that's what the people want though at that point, innit? Like you've got to the point, like if someone's going watching Harry Styles, they're gonna fucking scream "Leave America." Do you know what I mean?
Right.
If he doesn't play the song, people are gonna be disappointed. It's that fucking vicious cycle of like, what's that guy we listened to in college? And it was like, if he goes on tour now, it was like some old geezer, like an old band. Do you know what I mean? AC/DC sort of style, that sort of guy. And he's like, if I don't play these, I might have been Bon Jovi to be fair. If I don't play these 5 songs, people are going to be fuming.
Right.
That could be someone's first gig there. But because people are expecting, going, oh, Coldplay, like, I can't wait to go and see Yellow live.
Yeah.
And if they go, oh, we fucking played at every gig of our lives, well, we're going to play something else,
Yeah.
people are gonna go.
I was watching a thing the other day that Miley Cyrus was saying that Paul Simon said to her, "You're gonna." Miley
He
Cyrus
said that she said.
Paul Simon
told her-
told Miley Cyrus,
Right.
like, you need to play more of the hits when you go on the road. Only like 10% of the set should be what you actually want to play.
Yeah.
You got to play what the people want to hear. And the day after, she
I agree
actually
with
put
that.
Wrecking Ball back in the set. You know what I mean?
I agree with that though.
At Paul Simon's behest, she's just played Wrecking Ball again. You know what I mean? Which is a wild. That's a funny.
But going back, so let's try and like divide it from the live shit, right?
Yeah.
Albums.
Right.
Let's think about progressiveness of artists and music, right?
Right.
So one beef we usually have is with like Catfish, yeah? And it was like recycled sort of stylistic choices.
Yes.
Like, do you think there's a possibility like people write music, don't they? Like in the sessions in the studio, but like, when they're at a label or whatnot, and they're like, that's for next album. That's next album stuff.
I would say so, but again, it depends what kind of artist you are. You know what I mean? Like, I've heard Chris Martin talk about, like, they wrote some of Head Full of Dreams during the Ghost Story sessions, but were like, we're trying to make this specific album, which was Ghost Stories. So this is for later.
Next one.
You know what I mean? This is for the next one. Because it depends what you go into it with, because if you're... I don't want to sound like a dick, right? But let's divide the industry somewhat into like pop artists that are like industry pop artists.
Right.
So like a bit more manufactured, and then like artists that are like about the
Right.
that have got a lot more control in the actual like craft of the thing that they're making. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
So like if you're like an industry artist, maybe you're a big singles artist, you know what I mean? You're not necessarily writing the songs, you're not pulling all the strings or whatever.
Yeah.
Then the way you approach making an album is going to be different to the way somebody else who is more artistically inclined approaches making
Of
an
course,
album.
man. Like, if you're basically saying if you're a puppet, the album making process is going to be fucking completely different.
Yeah, and also I think this whole like the album is dead thing comes from people looking at the puppet artists because they're like singles artists, right?
I'm gonna put it there now. Like, I honestly do think albums are dead.
I just think I sort of understand why you think that.
There is no need for them anymore.
No, it's wrong.
I just don't think there's any need.
Explain.
Like, the way the world works these days in terms of music and, like, especially like you're saying, like, pop music sort of, like, you know, charts and, like, whatever mainstream shit, pop culture, it is a fucking singles game. Do you know what I mean? And even if it is an album, like, you're going to be looking, like, at an album with, like, 8 singles on.
I don't think that's true.
I just don't understand
like,
the point of, like, if you want to make it these days, you gotta be on it, aren't you? You gotta be on it whenever you can be on it. Like, every time looking for, I need to get back on. So instead of like making an album and having 4 singles and riding the wave, and then it's kind of done, why wouldn't you just keep writing as you're doing it? Do you know what I mean?
Well, but
having like 10 singles and releasing
that's very much the puppet.
But that's what I mean. But that's what you got to be, aren't you? To
well, no, not necessarily. I think the most influential pieces of music are albums. There's no great artists that are just singles artists.
I think we're in an era now where like great artists is hard to pinpoint. Do you know what I mean?
See, I think what happens is there's this debate going on, right, about like it sort of links to like the TikTokification of music and like, is music getting worse and is music still interesting in the mainstream and stuff like that. And I think there's always been like shitty pop artists. There's always been industry made artists. Mm-hmm. There's always been people who don't write their own songs. There's always been people who are just there to make money off the singles.
Indeed, I agree.
But the actual, you know, the people who give a shit about the actual music are all making albums, and then they're all still really influential. And I also think there's a want for albums, you know what I mean? Even in like artists with younger audiences, like if fucking Travis Scott only released singles, people would be pissed.
You think?
People would be pissed because there's an excitement for the album. When Utopia was announced, there was a buzz about it. You know what I mean? And that's the same for a lot of artists.
I'm trying to weigh up between casual listener and like music fans, because everyone you talk to these days, you know, will be like, "What sort of music are you into?" I'm into everything. I like a lot of different things. Do you know what I mean? Streaming, everything. Everyone's got access to every sort of piece of music now, which is why I'm saying if someone releases an album, I feel like it's gonna have a short hype the same way that a single does, but instead of being focused on one bit of music or one new track,
I think it's got more legs than a single would, because there's more to it. It's like we were talking about last week about the relationship between like trying to get your point across in like content, like 30-second clips on the internet versus doing a whole podcast. It's like people are going to find more in the podcast. Like there's more depth to an album than you can get in a single. You can get your point across better.
If you split an album up, because like, don't get it twisted, like albums are like a little journey of music, and don't get it wrong, like I'm a guy who likes albums.
Yeah.
I do get excited for albums. I look forward to albums the same way as we're talking about.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking about gen pop. Do you know what I mean? General population. Like people are going to be like, oh, let's say The Weeknd, for example, right?
Yeah.
If you break down After Hours into singles, right, and that sort of poppy vibe area he was on, like if you just released them tracks sporadically through a year and just said, right, 2015 or whatever is this sound, and then the next year it switched up in the same way like an album would drop, I think you'd have a better retention.
Okay, so let's take After Hours as an example, right?
Right.
So let's say you released all the tracks off After Hours individually as singles over the course of a year.
Yeah.
Okay. So a large part of what generated the hype for After Hours was how well Blinding Lights did, and how well, you know, even Heartless was a #1 single, you know what I mean? And I think if you'd have just released Escape from LA by itself, or fucking Scared to Live by itself, people would have gone, oh yeah, like, good song, but it wouldn't have sold like Blinding Lights did, because Blinding Lights was meant to be this like big pop statement, right? But sometimes things need the context of an album to make sense.
I get what you're saying. 100%.
Like thematically,
I'm trying to picture it as like,
and also After Hours was this huge album. You know what I mean? It was a big statement in pop music.
It was, but I'm just thinking, like, imagine instead of like an album coming out and like we're saying promoting tours and gigs. Well, let's say Blinding Light comes out, right, and then everyone's like, oh, I want to go and see The Weeknd, right? Boom, every like 12 gigs.
Yeah, but
new single.
People don't want to go see The Weeknd because of one song.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like,
people want to invest in a body of work.
I don't know how invested people are, mate.
People want to live in that, because
in the moment of the album.
It's like, obviously there's a percentage of the population that is a very surface level percentage of listeners to general music. You know what I mean?
I think that's a lot. I think it's big, mate.
Yep. But you're assuming that like most people that listen to music don't give a fuck about music. You know what I mean? Whereas I think
I'm not saying they don't give a fuck. I'm just saying they definitely like don't dive into it. Do you know what I mean? Like they do take it as a sort of like a surface level. This is the music I like. I don't think people think about it more than that. Like generally, like I think people just like that music because like they'll say like a sentence, like 3 words, or like this part. I like how it sounds like this.
Yeah, but what do you think that means for like the artist?
Well, I think that's what I mean about like we've just tried to talk about how like the artists have had to change over time to adapt to modern times and technology. Do you know what I mean? Like people want a song that's going to pop off on TikTok because that's where they know that the listeners are coming from.
I just think...
like radio, right? Radio is a good example. Radio still is like one of the best paying things in it. Like if you get a song that's on the radio all the time, you're going to get more money from it. Like, I seen a clip from Ryan Tedder saying, like, he never wants, like, if he's got a song on someone's album, he doesn't want it to be the first single out. He wants it to be, like, the fourth.
Right.
Because it will last longer.
Mm.
But that's what I mean. Like, if someone is going to focus more on, like, just putting music out and, like, let's disregard singles and albums, right? Because that's what we're dividing into.
Right.
Just putting music out, right? And just steadying that ship. Like, putting a song out every now and again.
I also think...
I think they're going to have, like I said, a better retention. I think they're going to do better financially because the money's getting streamed through the radio because it's the latest single of that person.
No, I would say the opposite, because there's a hype that comes with not releasing something for a while and then dropping a big project. That is, like if you got... It's like soap opera, right? Corrie is on all the time. It's on, or it literally just doesn't.
Biddies look forward to every single day. Like, it's in people's daily cycle to watch Corrie.
But not in the same, not the same amount of people, not in the same way, and not with the same cultural impact as, like, oh my god, the new season of Stranger Things or whatever the fuck it is drops next week. You know what I mean? Where people have invested in this long form thing that comes, that, you know, you get a season of. And then it's like, fuck, I've got wait another year for the season.
A season of Strange Things, right?
Right.
Good example. If they released every episode at the same time as Stranger Things, the hype would last long. It would be shorter.
Yes.
Than if it was a weekly, reoccurring episode.
Yes.
Even though it's a series.
But
that's my point. People will be more in tune to watch Stranger Things every Wednesday if they know when new episode's coming and it's going to intrigue them. Like, obviously...
Not if it drops every Wednesday, though.
Yeah, but not like every Wednesday for eternity.
If it drops every Wednesday for 2 months and then stops for a year and then drops every Wednesday for 2 months again, yes. But if it dropped every Wednesday for 5 years...
Yeah, but obviously no one's going to have
there's
music.
There's not going to be as much of an obsession about it.
But no one's going to release music or enough music like every week of the year. That's what I'm saying is, like, if it's like a year, if it's like an annual era sort of thing, but like an album spaced out more...
But if you're doing that, then right, if you're making this set of songs and we're going to release one a month for a year, let's say is your model,
12 songs album, yeah, your
model, right? Why not just make an album? Because then that in itself, the making of an album is an art form, right? The making of songs and music is an art form.
Yeah,
but the putting
album is
together
a body of work.
Of an album is an art form, you know, and I think the best artists truly appreciate that in the way they sequence an album, in the way that they release music videos that tie in together with the theme of the album, in the artwork and all this stuff. And I don't think that there's been an influential piece of music, like a truly influential piece of music that hasn't been an album in like the past however long.
That hasn't been like on an album.
That hasn't been an album.
A piece of music that hasn't been an album, what do you mean?
Like, there's been big songs, right?
Yeah.
Good For You by Olivia Rodrigo springs to mind, right? That was a huge song last year or the year before, whenever the fuck it was. But it's not impacted the landscape in the way that, like, Blonde did, or Damn did, or After Hours did.
Do you think, then, in the argument, that After Hours had more of an impact than just Blinding Lights? Because I personally think it didn't.
What do you mean an impact, though?
Well, that's what I don't know. That's your argument, isn't it? You're saying that it's more impactful.
All right, so more people would have heard Blinding Lights, and it's the most streamed.
But it's just the example we've used. That to be
right,
fair.
Yeah. But it's a good example to be fair. Most people have heard Blinding Lights, and it's probably the most streamed off the album, right? But in terms of like investment from people, I think After Hours is more likely to have changed, like influenced the musical landscape and influenced other artists, and also impacted listeners more than one pop song, because you can get more depth across in an album than you can in 3.5 minutes.
I understand what you're saying, and I'm not necessarily saying that I agree with like my own thoughts on it, but I do think that it would make more sense Do you know what I mean? Because like I have this conversation not about albums, just about things in general. Like if I don't understand something, like I won't be able to talk to you about it if I don't get it. But this is like I don't agree with it, but I understand if people said we're not doing albums anymore, we're just gonna do singles.
But then
how it would be okay.
This is the TikTokification of music, because you're essentially if what you're saying happened, right, and it was just singles, then doing something that's like 5.5 minutes long and a bit abstract would sort of go out the window, because it's like, oh well, it's not going to get played on radio. You know, it's got no context of anything else around it, so it might seem weird. People are less likely to listen to it because it's less of a like quick in-your-face statement. Whereas on an album, you've got that room to breathe. You know, if you're just doing singles, you're trying to appeal to people's attention every time. It's like a fucking TikTok video.
I get what you're saying. I feel like in that sort of situation, if you're an artist and you have made something that's 5.5 minutes long, and you're like genuinely like fucking feel for it, you're like I'm really proud of it. Yeah. Fucking put it out, man. The same way you're saying, like people will listen to albums.
It's not gonna have the same impact as if it was on an album, because again, like we were saying before, you kind of have to play the game somewhat.
More
right?
people
might not have people.
No, you pissed me off now.
People have listened to After Hours.
That's me, bitch.
That might not have listened to it had they not have heard Blinding Lights beforehand.
People have listened to songs on After Hours they might not have listened to if it had not been for Blinding Lights.
Yes.
100%. But if The Weeknd put out one of them shit songs on After Hours, which they would be, do you know what I mean? Let's people sandwich it in there. Sucker Punch. And if he put that out as a single, people will still listen to it. It'll still get like a lot of attention because it's in the fucking lineage
but it wouldn't
of
have
his discography.
More attention. It wouldn't have got as much attention.
No, but it would have got more than just being sandwiched on an album.
I don't think so, because what if you didn't put Blinding Lights? All right, so in your model of let's put a song out every month, what if Blinding Lights didn't come out till April?
I think it would still, if Blinding Lights is Blinding Lights, it's popped off. It's not popped off because of the time it was out.
No. But what I mean is, so like you're releasing a song every month. You're releasing a song every month, right? You release Scared to Live, Snow Child, Escape from LA, and then Blinding Lights.
Then I think people.
What about the other three? The other three wouldn't have got as much attention because they're not singles. They're not like quote unquote singles. You know what I mean?
I think people would have been interested the same way we're interested when someone brings out a new song. Do you know what I mean? But I think if someone goes, Blinding Lights, it's the fourth single of the year, fourth release of the year, people will go back and go, what's his previous releases like?
But also, you sort of skipped over my point of like the art form.
Sorry, mate, I apologise for skipping over your point.
The art form of an album. Like, I feel like you've not had a retort to that properly of like, sometimes, and as well, as a listener, right? Like, I love sitting down like the first time something drops and listening to it start to finish.
In order, chronologically.
Like, those moments, right? Those little segments of like 45 minutes have been some of the most influential moments in my life, right? I remember the first time I sat down and listened to AM start to finish, I was like, oh shit, like that changed me as a person. And that wouldn't have happened if it would have just been songs.
I don't know, man. I kind of disagree with that as well. Like, I feel like if you listen to Are You Mine on its own, like, I think that's just going to be like, maybe less impactful, but just as impactful.
That's what I mean, though, this is what I'm saying. You can't get as much across in a single as you could in an album.
Do I want to know, and Are You Mine straight away? Are you over, like, have you been indulged in something? Is it too much? Are you going to forget, like, the nuances of certain songs because you listen to this long form? Like, when you think about movies, right? And you go and watch a film, like, do you remember, like, the beginning of it towards the end? Do you remember the middle of it towards the end? No, you don't remember everything. But if you watch a trailer or something, you're going to remember pretty much what's in it.
I think that's what's sick about albums, though, is that if someone showed you a movie scene by scene, you know, if they showed you a different scene every month, it wouldn't make sense.
But it's pretty much like a series, though, isn't it? That's what series are. It's just like it's a long form of entertainment.
But exactly, that's why series are so good as well. Maybe not quite as good as music, but music can work as a hour piece start to finish, or it can work as 13 individual songs that you can listen to, right? Mm-hmm. And, you know, you can argue, as we are, over which is more impactful. Mm-hmm. But I would say that the collection of songs that share a similar aesthetic and vibe and were intended to be made together, because like we were talking at the start of the episode, when you go into the studio and you know you're making an album, it changes your perspective on what you're making, because you're like, okay, I'm not going to put this song on the album because it doesn't fit with the rest of the album, right? Yeah. So when you do that, that is a powerful thing, right? It's sick as well, because you can also listen to them individually if you want to, and obviously, you know, everything's become playlistable. So you can fucking take the songs out and put them with other songs from different artists that you think are the same vibe, which is also cool. But, you know, and a series does it to a lesser extent, where you can watch an episode and like go, oh shit, like that was an amazing episode. And then you can choose to watch the rest of the series and have this context that makes it make sense. Or you could just go, oh, that was a really impactful episode. You know what I mean? Don't see why you'd fucking only want to watch one if you really liked it. But you can do, it works as a thing. Like, there's a start and an end of that episode, right? It's like mini narrative arcs with one overarching arc, right? And that's the same as what albums are.
I'm just saying, like, if you just remove that album thing, like, I don't think much changes.
I think it does.
Like, if you have these series of episodes and you're like, they are a collection because they are a series, and you just take away, like at the end of a series, fucking, you know what I mean, series finale, whatever, and then you're like, right, that whole thing there is Stranger Things season 4. You could do the same thing with music and say, right, that song to that song is this era, that's this sort of style. And then if they change something else, they change something else. I just don't think albums, at the same way I was talking about before, business-wise, would have as much retention.
I think that's wrong, and they clearly do have enough retention for people to do multiple tours off them.
It's just the wheel, though, isn't it? It's just the wheel.
I don't know.
The same way, that's the way it has been, and no one's changed it because that's where the money is. But like, if someone said to you, or
yeah, but you could, because then you couldn't tour off the back of 12 singles over the course of a year, because there's nothing to tour off.
Not to begin with, no, probably not. But you could definitely do shows and play stuff you haven't released yet, as people do.
Yeah, but people aren't going to know the songs. There's something that comes with having an album come out and then the tour get released and you go, oh, I love this album, I want to go see this live.
From my experience, I have found new artists from hearing them live first and then being able to go and go, what was that song? Do you know what I mean?
I'm sure a lot of people do.
As people do, yeah.
Yeah.
But would I say, is that more exciting than me fucking listening to Milo's Xyloto and knowing I'm going watching it in a few months?
Yeah, because like, you're going to see this thing that you know you already love. You're going to see your favourite artists.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's as impactful as what we're saying as me going to Leeds, hearing the Vaccines and going, oh, I like this band.
I think it is more impactful.
What, the first one?
Yeah, because there's an anticipation involved. You know, I'd been into Coldplay for years and never seen them live until, you know, last month or whatever. And leading up to that, I was like, fuck, like, I hope they play this one. Like, there's all these songs that I know and love, and now I'm going to hear it in this environment with all these other people that also know and love them. And there's something to be said for the fact that if you drop an album, not only do you have the anticipation of the album, but then once the album's out, if people like it, there's the anticipation of the tour.
Disclosure, right? Just reviewed and just ranked them, yeah?
Yeah.
New album came out.
Yeah.
Only found out about it like a day before.
Yeah.
Is it a really good album? Yes. Are the songs individually really good? Yes. If they released that album over a course of time like singles fucking do anyway, which they kind of do, you know what I mean? 4 singles of an album, that sort of shit. Would I have been as interested and as intrigued? I think so, yeah.
I'm not convinced you would. Also, there's the argument to be had about like the difference in dance music, because as a genre, it's very single-led.
Right.
Historically. You know, like I don't know, I can't remember if we've spoke to Tim or I've spoke to Tim about like the medium of the fact that his shit gets signed.
Yeah. Like per single sort of thing.
You know what I mean? He signs 2 songs at a time. Whereas that's not the way it works in the pop world and the indie world and hip hop world.
Maybe hip hop.
Yeah. But I just think there's more anticipation for a body of work, you know. If it's weird, right? People either want like the shortest fucking, a minute long thing.
Stimulation.
Stimulation. Last episode, that was the word he was trying to think of. People either want this really short form thing, or they want Stranger Things fucking 16 hours of television.
Lord of the Rings,
you know what I mean?
extended version trilogy back to back.
And the reason that people like those massive, that's why TV's doing so well. The reason that people like those, there's a lot of huge TV shows. I think there's probably more culturally impactful TV shows in recent years than films.
You mean like platforms, you like streaming shit, or?
No, but I mean like actual shows. You know what I mean?
Just like
past 10, 15 years, there's been a lot of like big long form shows. Your Breaking Bads, you fucking
Game of Thrones,
Stranger Things, right? Whether it's like fucking 45 minutes, an hour long episode, and there's fucking 12 in a season or 10 in a season or whatever. That's like long form content. You know what I mean? Look at Joe Rogan, man. The podcasts are 3 hours long. Right, there's a want for this long form content that
but
people
if Joe Rogan, it's not about I don't think it's about how long it is. I think it's about like bodies of work.
No, but it's about.
So if Joe Rogan released a playlist of podcasts, 3 hours long each, but did like 15, bam, put them all on YouTube on the same day, they would not do as well, I think.
What if he released them like it was a TV show?
Like which he does now. Like he has a guest. He has a guest on.
Yeah.
He releases it. Does very well. People on the next one. Does another one. Cycle goes on.
But that's because each one is 3 hours long. People want this thing.
But if
this
Joe
long
Rogan's
form thing
podcast
to invest in.
I don't know if it was an hour long.
If Joe Rogan dropped, because all right, to put the Rogan thing into your music analogy, if Joe Rogan dropped a 3-minute podcast every month for a year, people would be pissed because his thing is long form content, right?
Well, I'm just trying to think of like
is a really like this is what I'm saying. So sick about it because it can be viewed as songs or it can be a long form thing.
Yeah, but we're saying long form. It's like as a body of work. If someone released a 3-hour song, how many people are going to be into that?
Yeah, but it depends what the medium is. You don't expect podcasts to be fucking only 5 minutes long. You expect them to be like an hour.
Yeah, but that's just because it is a podcast.
But that's the medium. It's the same with TV. You wouldn't release a 5 minute.
You wouldn't expect a fucking orange to be red, would you?
You wouldn't expect. What the fuck are you on about? You wouldn't expect.
I think a podcast's a podcast because it's long. That's what it is. A movie is a movie because it's long.
Yeah. So you don't expect songs to be an hour long.
That's what I'm saying.
But you expect albums to be 45 minutes long.
Yeah, because that's why I'm saying it doesn't translate well in your example. Right. Because a podcast is a podcast.
Well, no, but I'm using that.
Is a song.
I'm using that as an example.
An
of
album is a body of songs.
Of like people are still willing to invest in long form content, right? Whereas the myth is that we've all got no fucking attention spans. People only want singles. People want to listen to 30-second clips of songs on TikTok.
Not a myth though, is it? So true. People do.
Yeah, but it's true. It's true to some degree.
People
but it can't be fully true because people still want
cream sodas coming for my neck.
Because people still want, The Sopranos and Stranger Things and all these like huge.
I don't know what you're getting at because The Sopranos and Game of Thrones are individual episodes. So what I'm saying is there's episodes in a series of Game of Thrones that people are like, oh, that was fucking not needed. That was a waste of an album. That was a shit episode. The same way people can look at an album and go, them songs don't need to be there. They're bad songs on that album.
But gives it context.
What?
All I'm saying that the reason I'm using this analogy is not so much I've sort of thrown your song a month thing out the window because I don't really believe it's a good argument, right? But what I'm trying to say is there's this myth that albums are dead and that people only want singles because everyone's attention span's fucked and no one gives a fuck about music. But it's clearly bollocks because in other mediums, we can see that long form content is still craved, and also even in music we can see that the most influential bodies of work are albums, not singles. What's the last single that someone dropped that changed the musical landscape?
I think you could have a few examples of that sort of thing because like people always release like a single, don't they, right? And like you hear that sort of same sound be like copied and that's that sort of like style for the time, do you know what I mean? like previous, like we've just said before, like it was like a very 80s style sort of music was coming back, and then now it's like sampling sort of like older songs. Do you know what I mean? That's in like pop
Right.
culture, sort of mainstream music.
Yeah, but how much is that? Do you think those songs have impacted people's lives more than
Albums,
Pimp Butterfly,
some
you
people,
know what I mean?
some people, yeah, 100%.
I don't know. I
think
just
it's easier for people to have favourite songs than favourite albums these days. Don't get it twisted. I'm talking very, very current, general, the way the world and the music and the industry has gone in the past like 5 years.
But I think that people will have favourite songs off albums.
Obviously,
You know
because
what I
that's
mean?
the fucking the way it works. The songs are on albums.
Yeah, but people's favourite songs, they might not like them as much without the context of the album, is what I'm trying to say.
Like, people like Paul Rudd. Do you know what I mean? People like him, and they'll go, oh, why'd you like him? Oh, he was good in Ant-Man. He was good in Anchorman, all the mans. Right? He was good on Hot Ones. They just like him as a person.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So it's the same with music, do you know what I mean? They will just like music, not because they're from... Obviously, they are from other things, but that's not the reason why people like them.
I don't know. I think you're not giving music lovers enough credit. Like I said before, I think...
But
that
music
a
lovers
lot of
these days
people-
are into everything. They like everything. They like every genre. They like a lot of different styles. Do you know what I mean? They might say, who do you like? It's more like personalities and stuff like you said
Yeah,
before.
but like, it's not like...
Oh, I like Doja Cat.
Yeah, but singles are... What I'm trying to say is singles are less likely to change people's lives than albums are. Singles are less likely to change the musical landscape than albums are.
I don't know, man.
Singles are less likely to be a marker of longevity for an artist than albums are. And obviously, arguably the best pop artists, people like The Weeknd, people like Taylor Swift, are people who have got hit singles, but also albums that people have really adored.
But again, that's where we're talking about like different groups of people, aren't we? We're talking more in-depth musical people. Do you know what I mean? People who will recognise
this is what I'm saying.
albums.
Like, you're not giving
Those people enough credit in the
you also
in the
don't
sum.
think that that group of people is as large as it is. I think the people who just look at music on surface level is not as big as you're saying. Obviously, there are a lot of people, like we spoke about before, just get in the car, put the fucking radio on, listen to whatever, right? That's like half the population.
I think like I'm talking more like Spotify sort of playlist donnies,
Right.
like who will add multiple people just to like to a certain their own body of work.
But I still think people get invested in artists. It's not just all about songs.
No, 100%. 100% people get invested in artists, but I think they'd be invested in artists through singles and songs more than albums these days. That's my point.
I think they'll find artists more through singles and songs,
Mm-hmm.
but become invested in those artists through listening to their bodies of work.
I think in terms of like, I definitely do think, I think I'm giving enough credit to people who do listen to albums and people that are into music because it's a lot more accessible these days. But in terms of everyone that listens to music, I think there is more of a percentage-wise on general surface. That was a good song.
Okay, well, to start to draw this to a close, right? Because obviously, you know, this is just a debate. We're not really
Again,
probably not going to change
let's
people's
just-
minds.
I fucking love albums, mate.
Yes, yeah.
I'm just putting an argument out.
Yeah,
there.
and I also think there is, you know, the single as a format, getting the single right, if you can do that, is incredibly hard, and it's also a great talent. And
Do you think, like, looking back, like you've just said, I mentioned about AM there before, like, it is more albums that, like, change the way you have, like, done something or that, been more impactful in your life? Because I think it would be singles for me. Singles or artists rather than albums.
No, it's artists and albums for me. Definitely.
'Cause I'm trying to think-
As I get older, I listen to songs more, like individual songs from artists. I'll find a song that I like,
Right.
maybe listen to a couple of other songs, go on, like from that artist and go on, this isn't for me.
Yeah, true.
But the artists that I love, the artists that have impacted me, are ones that I care about their wider discography.
I agree. And I think that's more of a personal term and subjective thing for people to get from stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, they've found this person, this song that they like, and then they can take from it what they want.
So, just to wrap it up, what do you think the future looks like in terms of albums versus singles?
I think the future in general is pretty scary.
Yeah.
Like technology is forever advancing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In terms of what I think it is, well, I don't think much is going to change, if I'm being honest, because obviously, like you said before, it's whatever they're doing is working.
Yeah.
What I do feel is that the power is more in like the artist's hands now than ever before. The same way that we know that, you know, people who are popping off or are getting their music out there are more approached by labels saying, can we sign? Can we do this? Do you know what I mean? Can we sign this and we'll give you this much money? Blah, blah, blah. So I think it might go more towards like Tim's way of doing shit.
It's getting signed like per song.
Per singles, yeah. Because I think that it all depends, doesn't it? No one knows how well a song or an album is going to do. So let's say, for example, you drop a song tomorrow, right? Or you're going to release, you put it out there. No, you fucking got your own platform. You do it yourself, you know what I mean? You made your song, you put it out there, right? And someone comes up to you and says, you know what, Liam, McGrath, from Witness, I'll give you 20 grand for that song, for me to own the rights to that song.
Right.
You're still credited for it, you can still play it live, but that's going to be my song. What would you say?
But it's still like, they're putting it out as me, or are they just having the song?
They own it. So
are they the is this a label or are they the artist?
No, you'll be the artist still. They're like the label.
Right.
They're just like, we just like own like the mechanicals and stuff.
Right.
But you get 20 grand.
I mean, yeah, to get me off the ground, probably.
Right, okay. Song goes off, does fuck all, right? They get no money. They thought it was going to pop off, didn't.
Yeah.
They get 5 grand back from it, right? You release another song, and they go, oh, we like this as well. We'll give you another 20 grand. And you say yeah again. And then it earns 300 grand off that single, right?
Yeah, well, this is this the way the industry works in any pocket or facet? Probably not.
From what I've seen, people like
I don't know,
younger independent artists emerging. Like I think people are approached based on like song by song basis.
Yeah, but we'd have to speak to Tim about it to get the specifics of like. Who owns what? Who's getting paid what?
I'm just fucking pissing around with numbers here and throwing situations.
No, but what I mean is like, I don't think it's the case that they're like, we'll give you X amount for this song and then anything we make on it is ours.
But I think that is a possibility. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Because it's so populated. You know, there's so many people. I think they might just rather get the money quickly off one thing that's viral or popping or people like than put money into something and hope it does well. That's what I think.
Well, I mean, that's definitely the way that like labels are looking at the minute. Like they want you to already be popping before they're gonna shill any money at you. Like,
but I don't even mean like the artist necessarily. Like has got like a good following, a good background. They've worked well for themselves so far. If the song is doing well,
yeah, literally, yeah.
That's what I think it's gonna be more like.
Yeah, it's definitely heading that way, innit? Well, thank you very much for listening and watching. That's been another episode of the Stereotypical Podcast. I know,
exhausted, man.
Go for some lunch in a minute, everyone. Thank you.
But carry on buying albums, people.
Yeah, definitely, man. Support the album, and you'll be thanked for it because they're fucking better than singles. This has been Stereotypical. My name's been Liam. This has been Jack O'Neill. Please be sure to check out the links in the description for our social media. You can like and subscribe this video. No, you can't subscribe to this video. You can like this video. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Videos from
you can subscribe to
one day in the future.
Us on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on, if you're just listening to the audio version. And we'll catch you on the next one. Jacko, hit him with the peace.